stuff that I'm going to be showing you. So today what I'm going to be showing you is a small presentation on flash photography. After that, what we are going to do is I'm going to be showing you how to use different light systems. So today we have with us all the flashes that are practically possible on for us to use on dental photography. We have our ring flash, we have our twin flash. I'm going to be discussing about all the buttons, all the modes today. I'm going to be talking about what is the difference between these two flashes. So these two are called speed lights, sorry, and they are still not the same. Although they look the same, they are not the same. So we'll see what's the difference between these two. We'll speak about light modifiers like this. This is a light modifier. This is also a light modifier. We're going to be speaking a lot about triggers, and we're also going to be speaking about continuous light source like this one. So a lot of stuff to happen today. This looks like a sword, doesn't it? Yeah, and I'm going to be using and showing you how to mount a speed light on a tripod and a lot of other things. Unfortunately, I did not want to leave my house today. My studio lights my studio lights are in my office, in my operatory, so I did not find it safe to go to my clinic and get it back. So however, I have that part of studio light on my presentation. Once again, thank you so much for joining in. Hello Komal ma'am, thank you so much for joining in. Request to all of you all, if you can start a watch party, it'll be really cool. All you have to do is just keep your phone vertical. In that you will be seeing a share option. In the share option you will get an option to start a watch party. As soon as you start a watch party, I'll come to know who has started a watch party and stuff like that. Riddhi, if you can just help me and just type in how you can start a watch party for others to see, it'll be of great help. Also, before I begin, I wanted to ask how many of you, like in the previous session I had asked 7 questions. I wanted to know how many of you got all the 7 correct. I remember a couple of you who lost a couple of points in 1 or 2 questions, but I was really hopeful that somebody at least would have got full points. If there's somebody who got full points, then I'll be really looking forward to know that. Right, so let us start with today's session. Today's session is on flash. All right. I'll probably put the lights off so you can see this better. I guess this is better for all of you all. So flash is the thing that gives us the light source and is the most important equipment for us. If we go on and understand what is the meaning of photography, photography is equal to photon plus graphos, in the sense light plus graphos means to write. So whenever you record something with the help of light, it is called as photography. So the most important equipment for us in photography is our light source. All right, so let us go ahead and see what are light sources we have for photography and if they are useful for us in photography or not. All right, so if we speak about light, there are 2 types of light sources. One is continuous and one is flash. They both are not the same. They are different things. All right, so a light source can be continuous or it could be a flash. If it is continuous, it is helpful for us in dental photography to a certain extent for tabletop photography. An example of this would be our ring light, or we have another example today. This is called as a light tower. This is also a continuous light source. It could be helpful for us to a certain extent. This is also a continuous light source. All right. But our main important equipment is the flash. What kind of flashes do we have? we have flash which can be unidirectional, or a flash which could be multidirectional. Unidirectional, it is usually less aesthetic, much more straightforward to use. It's way more easy to use. A multidirectional flash like a twin flash is more aesthetic, and it requires a little bit more effort to use it. Alright, so we need to break a little of our head in order to use it effectively. What is an example of unidirectional flash? Built-in flash, the camera flash, the on-camera flash is an example of unidirectional flash, or a ring flash is also a unidirectional flash. However, multidirectional flash, we have two great options called as twin flash as well as studio light. Whenever we talk about any flash, before we talk about any flash, we need to understand this very clearly. So please try and understand this concept, because it's a very important concept. The power of any flash is decided by its guide number. How do we calculate guide number of a flash? Guide number is equal to distance from the subject multiplied by the f-stop, or the f number kept on our camera. So we already know what is f number. For example, in this situation I have kept f16, so that's our f number that we are talking about. This is the f-stop or the f number. So f number multiplied by distance from the subject gives us the guide number. Alright, so we have two examples over here, built-in flash as well as a speed light. Built-in flash, it is having a less guide number, so obviously you can see at a same f number for both of them, built-in flash is going to reach very less distance. However, speed light is going to cover more number of distance because it has a greater guide number as compared to an inbuilt flash. So this is a little bit more theoretical. That after the theoretical part today, I'm going to be moving on to the practical aspect of flashes, but let me try and incorporate a little bit of theoretical part, which is really important for us to understand when it comes to flashes. Before buying any flash, you have to know what is the guide number of the flash, which is something that most of the people, especially the dentists, are not aware of. You should know the guide number of the flash that you are planning to buy. Let us dig into it a little bit more deeper. Alright, so if we know the guide number, and if we know what distance we are going to stand from the subject, we can calculate the exact f number for our system to be used in. Most of the times in dental photography, I shoot at an f of f32. Alright, so I know my f number that I'm already going to be using. I also know the guide number that my flash has, so I can actually calculate the maximum distance I can be from my subject as well. Let us see some numerical examples. If my flash is having a guide number of 80 and I'm at 5 feet from my subject, I can keep an f of 16. However, my guide number is obviously not going to change for my flash, it's always the same. If my guide number is 80 and I move away from the subject, so instead of 5 feet I'm going to 10 feet, please understand it will reflect on my f number. In the sense, if I'm going away from the subject, my f number will be compromised, will have to be compromised if I want a good exposure. If I move in even more far away, my guide number obviously remains the same. So instead of 5 feet or 10 feet, now I'm going to 20 feet. I have to compromise on my f number. This is very important for us to understand, is because we take basically two types of pictures in dental photography and documentation. One of them is intraoral photography, and there's one more, extraoral photography. In extraoral photography, we need to record the full face of the patient, and we have to stare, and we have to stand quite far from the patient. You can say we have to stand around 5 meters away from the patient. So obviously, if we are going away, if we keep this formula into consideration, if we move away from the patient, I have to compromise on our f number. So here is a small trick for all of you all to remember. This could be the holy grail for great shots. People keep on asking me what settings I use. So trust me, I don't play a lot with my camera settings. I have two basic things into consideration. Number one, if I'm taking intraoral picture or extraoral picture. If I'm taking an intraoral picture, I keep my f constant at f32. It does not matter what image I'm shooting for intraoral. Or also for instance, if I'm taking a close-up of smile picture, I'll still keep my f32. But the moment I shift to full face, I have to compensate my f number because the guide number of my flash is the same. It's not going to change. So for intraoral, I take most of my shots at f32, and for extraoral, I take most of my shots at f11. If at f11, people who use inbuilt flash, you might be getting a darker image. Sometimes you can manage that underexposure in post-processing if you wish to. Alright, so this was the small little theoretical aspect that I want to cover for today. Starting from here, we'll be speaking more about the practical applications and how a flash is useful for us, and how to manage the flash settings, what are the different types of flashes, and so on and so forth. Alright, so let me start ahead with the practical demonstration for each and everything. Before we go ahead, I would probably want to remind you again, please start a watch party if you can. The moment you start a watch party, I come to know that you have started a watch party. It comes as sharer, so just go down. You have an option called share, and in that you can start a watch party for everybody to see. So let us see what all flashes are available for us. We'll start with the least powerful flash that's available for us to use in dental photography and documentation, and obviously that flash is an inbuilt flash. Alright, so you have to work on manual mode of the camera. So you can see my camera is already on manual mode. Usually I keep my settings constant, that is shutter of 1/200, ISO 100, and if I'm taking intraoral, f is 32. But if I do extraoral photography, I keep it at f11. So this is for my extraoral photography, and this is for my intraoral photography. I don't play a lot with my settings. So let us see the first type of flash that's available to us. This is our inbuilt flash. Alright, if I want to take a picture with my inbuilt flash, all I have to do is get the camera in front of the patient and shoot. But before I go ahead and take, I have to visualize what is the field that I'm going to be covering. So right now I'm planning to cover maximum intercuspation shot, for example. So if this is my patient, I know that this shot comes at a magnification ratio of 1:3 for crop sensor camera users. So what I'm going to do is, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to be setting my magnification ratio at 1:3. So this is the yellow color numbers of my magnification ratios. Alright, and all I have to do now is go close, come behind, and take a shot. So because I want to show it to all of you all, I'll probably put it on live view, and I'll start showing it to you how we have to take a picture. Right, so this is the inbuilt flash that I'm showing you all, and this is the image that we have managed to get with our inbuilt flash. At f32, trust me, you get most of the pictures really with a great amount of depth of field. So if you actually want to see, everything will be sharp. It does not, I mean, it's most of the times you will be ending up getting pictures which are extremely sharp even with an inbuilt flash. So my suggestion for inbuilt flash users is don't underestimate your inbuilt flash. Alright, where do you find the guide number on the flash? The guide number is there in the manual of your camera or your flashes. Alright, if you want to make your inbuilt flash slightly more aesthetic and diffuse, you can opt for an inbuilt flash diffuser. If you remember, I had shown you this thing even on our first live session. All you have to do is, this will go inside the hot shoe of your camera. Let me show that to you. This is how it will go inside your hot shoe, inside the camera's hot shoe. But sometimes what happens is, if you put it completely inside, you'll not be able to open your inbuilt flash. See, I'm not able to open my inbuilt flash because there's some mechanical lock that has happened. So what we have to do is just keep it outside slightly, and then we open the inbuilt flash. And if you want, then you can push this inside. This is how we put a diffuser for our inbuilt flash, in case you would want to have it. So one word of caution is, your inbuilt flash should not leak from top or bottom if you want to diffuse it nicely. So your inbuilt flash should be falling somewhere in the center of this diffuser. How do you manage that situation? You have holes in your diffuser, so you can remove this. You can actually remove this and you can see the holes. So if you think your flash is leaking, in the sense your flash is slightly more up, you can move the diffuser also upwards like this, and you can mount on any one of the holes. So whenever you're mounting, you have to be careful which is the ideal hole where you're going to be putting this probe inside. So let me try and put it in the 1, 2, 3, 4th hole from top. Over here it's on the 2nd hole from top, so I can get this also and put it a little below. So if you want to see what is the difference with respect to image making, then let me try and show it to all of you how a diffuser is going to help us, like how a diffuser is going to affect our system. So every time I have to check my magnification ratio. Is it at 1:3? The answer is yes. Let me show it to all of you all what I'm shooting. So I'll just put the camera on live view mode. As soon as the first premolar is sharp, I'll go ahead and take the shot. Yeah, so my first premolar is almost sharp, and let us try and compare what is the difference between these two pictures. So this is with the without the diffuser, and this is with the diffuser. You can see the effect is much more soothing and soft as compared to an inbuilt, which is a little bit more harsh. Yeah, this without the diffuser, and this is with the diffuser. Obviously you have to understand that if you put a diffuser on your flash, you are adding an obstruction, so you might get a darker image as compared to the one in which you did not have a diffuser. So this is quite an obvious thing. A diffuser is a mechanical obstruction in front of your flash, so you have to compensate for this if it is there, okay, or manage it in post-processing if you wish. But obviously because of this obstruction, your image with the diffuser is going to be slightly more darker as compared to the one without the diffuser. So that's all I had to speak about inbuilt flash. I don't use a lot of inbuilt flash in my clinical situation because it is not as powerful, and I have a lot of F number issues when I'm taking mirror images. Alright, so this is the suggestion that I give it to my inbuilt flash users. If you want, you can note it down. If it is a direct shot that you are planning to take with an inbuilt flash, direct shot in which direct shot means like this one, maximum intercuspation position. It's a direct shot. There is no mirror involvement in this. So what I suggest my delegates who use inbuilt flash is you can keep your F number maximum whenever you are taking a direct shot. However, if you are taking an indirect shot, in the sense if you are putting mirror inside the mouth and you're going to be focusing on the mirror, in that case the light has to travel double the distance. Obviously we have already seen that if light has to travel double distance, you have to compromise on your F number. So for people who are using inbuilt flash, direct shots will come good at maximum F number, and if you are taking a mirror image, it might be coming it will come great at f18 or something like that. You can try it on your camera and see where you're getting a good exposure. That would probably remain the same for all the mirror images. You don't have to keep on playing with your pictures at all, right? You want all the pictures to have same exposure. So the bottom line is, direct shots for inbuilt flash users at maximum f number, and indirect shots means mirror images at an f of say f18 or 20. You can try it out and you can check it out for yourself. Usually, if I've realized that when I use my inbuilt flash, I get a good image through the mirror at f18. So this is what I tell my students. Shutter speed and ISO remains constant for all the pictures. It does not matter what you are doing in dental photography. Shutter speed 1/200, ISO 100. It does not matter if it is intraoral photography, extraoral photography, mirror photography, or without the mirror photography, or even tabletop photography. Shutter speed and ISO always remains the same. But for inbuilt flash users, for direct shots, f32 for direct shots, and for mirror images, f18. That's my suggestion. Let's move on to the second type of flash system. All right. Also, a couple of people asked me, can we change the power in the inbuilt flash? The answer is yes. You just have to go into the menu and you have an option called inbuilt flash setting. In inbuilt flash setting, you can choose manual, and in manual you can go ahead and make the power changes if you want. So you have something called as flash control. In that you have flash firing. You have to enable the flash firing. Inbuilt flash setting, you have an option called as inbuilt flash setting. You just have to keep it on normal flash firing, and then exposure compensation in Canon you can put it at +2. that will be the maximum power. All right. But in Nikon it's slightly different. In Nikon you have to go into your settings, then there's built-in flash setting. In the built-in flash setting, there are two options, manual as well as TTL. You have to go to manual. In manual there is an option called as full, so you have to select option called as full. So that's the difference between Canon and Nikon. If you have any other company, you can get back to me. You can take down my phone number and you can ask me, just give me a live WhatsApp video call. I'll help you with that. All right, so let us go ahead and see our so this comes under unidirectional flash. So another unidirectional flash that we are going to see right now is this one. So this is also a unidirectional flash because it attaches in front of the lens and you cannot change the direction of the ring tubes. All right, so let me go ahead and show you how we are going to mount the ring flash onto our camera. Let me go step by step for all of you all. I'll be placing my phone horizontal, so sorry for the trouble, but this is how we are going to be doing today. I tried a lot to make the video horizontal, but it was not working. So let me try and show you how to mount ring flash, and then I'll go ahead and show you the settings of the ring flash. All right, so I'm going to be placing my ring flash on this camera right now for the time being. This is Canon 700D. So the ring flash that I'm going to be using for now is this one. Please ensure that the ring flash has batteries. This is where the batteries go. This is the battery orientation. You can see the graphical representation, plus minus plus minus. So plus minus plus minus, that's the way I'm going to be placing the batteries. These are rechargeable batteries. Please go ahead and buy any rechargeable batteries which are above 3000 mAh. So this has to go inside the hot shoe like this. After it goes inside the hot shoe, you have to tighten the thread. Only if it's tight enough, you will be able to use it. One word of caution is I have seen so many people who don't put this inside, and a little bit of it stays outside. In that case, what is going to happen is the flash is not going to fire. You have to ensure that the entire ring flash connection goes inside. Even if a little bit is outside than expected, it's not going to fire. All right, so the first thing is I have to put the commander inside the hot shoe. Now because this is a third party flash, I have to place an adapter. You already know how to find out what is the diameter of a lens. We have already discussed it in our previous live session. So since my diameter is 58, I'll be fixing this 58 mm diameter adapter on my lens. So it's just a thread. So if you want, you can keep the camera vertical and then do it if you are not used to doing it. Or in my case, since I'm handling too many things, I'll be keeping the camera vertical and then I'll be threading it on my lens. Just make sure that it's pretty tight. Alright, and the last thing is putting the ring tubes onto the adapter. So you have two buttons on the lateral aspect of this flash. You can see it over here clearly. So there's one button here and one button here. You have to press it and you have to mount it on the adapter, and you can leave it. You can pull it and check if it's working fine or not. So this is how we mount the ring flash. Please make sure that the wire is not bending. It has to come from up to up. Don't mount it like this, otherwise the wire will get stretched unnecessarily. So try not to get try not to stretch the wire too much. Let us go ahead and see what all features does my ring flash have in store for me. So you can obviously see this is a Yongnuo ring flash. It's called as macro ring light, although this is a misnomer. This is not a macro ring light, this is a macro ring flash, and we're going to be putting it on. For the time being, my camera is off. You can see that I've kept my camera off because I don't want to waste the battery. Let us see what all features are available in our ring flash. Okay, first things first, we have two modes on my ring flash, ETTL and manual. These are the two modes that are available for us. ETTL means electronic through the lens or automatic mode, and manual means manual. Obviously I have to control the flash. So the only mode that we use, there are only two modes in any flash. So ETTL and manual are the only two modes in any flash. ETTL automatic you're not supposed to be using. We keep it on manual mode and use it so you can manage the power according to your own self. So I am the one who's controlling the flash power out here. There's a button to put this light on or off, just in case I have to put it on for all of you all to see. You can also put the audio on or off. So whenever I fire the flash, whenever it's available again for the next fire, you will hear a beep. I can turn it on or off from here itself. So you can see there's a button called as pilot, which has a red color light. Now this might be interesting for all of you all. We all follow traffic rules, right? So usually the red signal is the one which is associated with stopping or waiting. Can you tell me what is the meaning of red on the pilot? Please tell me what is the meaning of red on the pilot. Anyone who can tell me this? Anubhav Sood, I can't rotate the camera. Anybody who can tell me what is the meaning of red on the pilot? Anyone? Liji not connected to the camera. Chanel is saying not synchronized settings. Bhaumik ready to fire. Priyam Aditya charging. Nice. Seema Rathi, it's ready. Whoa, hi Seema ma'am. Hello Akshay sir, if you are there. Ashish Pandit, there is enough battery. Sudarshan, fire. Sudarshan is on fire. Shiroz Khan, the flash is ready to fire next. Amol, ready. Red us busy. I don't know what that means, Amol. Kristam, ready to shoot. Sudarshan, ready to fire. Muhammad Al-Shiri, you can't take the shots. Shiroz Khan, flash is charged and ready. Dr. Sheetal, not ready. Wait. Golab, flash is ready. Hi Golab sir, how are you? Sudarshan, Apurva, Hassan, Kasim, flash is not ready. Umang Shah, low battery. Great. So I think I've understood your opinions. Now it's time to see what is happening out here. In Flash world, red means ready. So all those people who said red means ready or fire, it's ready to fire, you are right. You can give yourself 10 points. This was my first question for today. Let us check if it's firing or not. So 1, 2, 3, it fired, and immediately you heard a beep. That means I am ready to fire again. That is because I am working with half power. This is one of the reasons why I like to work with half power, because my flash becomes ready immediately without any lag. However, if I increase my power to full power, it's going to take some time to recharge. Alright, so let us try and press the pilot button again and see what's happening. 1, 2, 3. See, it became green. It became green first and then it became red after a second or so. That means whenever I'm using my flash on full power, it's taking some time for it to recharge. When it's trying to recharge, it becomes green. So green in the flash means not ready, and red means ready. That is the difference between these two settings. All those people who are asking me to rotate the screen, I cannot. I guess you joined in a little late. We've had some technical issues. I tried to rotate my screen quite a lot of times. I stopped the live, I tried it again, but it's just not working today. Maybe one of those bad days. So anyways, let's go ahead and see what else do we have. I sincerely request all of you all to please start a watch party. You have an option called, just below the video, just above the comments, you have an option called share. Just go to share and there's an option called as watch party. Please start a watch party so even others can take advantage of this session. Alright, so yeah, so these let us look at the other buttons. So this is this light on off button. In case you want, if you want to put the music off, you have to do a long press, the music goes off. If I want to put it on again, I can do a long press and put it on again. This is the pilot switch to fire my flash. That's how my flash fires. For you all to see how it is firing, I'm going to be pressing it like this and putting in on my camera. That is how it fires. That is how it fires. Okay. Next we have this. We already seen mode, and now let me speak about another simple button called as lamp. If you can appreciate right now, no direct or continuous light source is on, but if the moment I press this lamp button, so if I press the lamp button, you can see a continuous light source being on. This is pretty helpful for us as a dentist if we want it. You don't have to use it, but if you want it, you can use it. This is a continuous light source. So sometimes what happens is we keep our chair light off, and it's difficult for us to see inside the mouth. If we keep this lamp on, it becomes a little bit more easy for us to focus on the right tooth that we are looking at. So this is the help of the lamp button, which is this one. So if you want, you can keep it on or off, but if you don't want it, you can put it off. I usually keep it off because it's not of much importance according to me, and it wastes a lot of battery as well. So this is one reason why I like to keep it off. This is the on off button. Obviously if I do a long press, it goes off. If I do a long press again, it goes on. So we finished on off, lamp, this light and music and pilot. We also finished the mode. So we finished almost all the buttons except these buttons and ratio. These buttons are nothing but increase or decrease the flash power. So you can see if I'm pressing the right side, the power is increasing. If I'm pressing the left side, the power is decreasing. The minimum power that we can go to is 1/64. If I want to increase the flash power, 1/32, 1/16, 1/8, 1/4, 1/2 and 1/1. This is the full power. This is the minimum power. This is the full power. Suppose if I don't want such large incremental increases or reductions, I can do it in parts also. You can see 1/2 plus 0.07 plus 0.03 and then half. Similarly, if I want to increase, so see 1/2, if I want to increase in a little bit, so it will become half plus 0.3, half plus 0.7, and then it will become full. So these are incremental increases. These are one stop increases, one full stop increases. What is a stop or not? I'll explain it later on, but not at this point of time. So if you want to increase or decrease radically, left right buttons, but if you want to increase or decrease in parts, in small proportions, you can do like this. I don't play a lot with increments, to be very honest. I just play with these two, half power, quarter power, or 1/1. What flash setting I keep is usually for most of my shots I keep it on full power, and for anterior aesthetics, I keep it at 1/8 power. I use only two flash settings, 1/8 for anterior aesthetic close-ups and full power for all the other shots. These are the only settings that I use. Alright, so we've covered all the buttons except ratio. Now ratio is a very scary button to go in if you are not if you're not an experienced photographer. I would not suggest you to go in ratio and play with the ratios. Why? It's because of this. So even this ring flash is not one light, it is actually two round tubes which are below this diffuser. All right, so there is a tube A and a tube B, or tube 1 and a tube 2. Ratio basically means if I want to change the ratio between these two tubes, I can change with the help of ratio. For example, if I want one tube to be more heavier as compared to the other tube, I can use the ratio function. So when I press on ratio, so you can see B is at 1/4.03. Okay, now B is at half power, 1/4 power, 1/8 power. So I'll keep it at 1/4 power, and I'll press the center button and I'll go to A. A is at full power. I can put the A off also. See this, A is off, and B is at 1/4 power. So A will be off at this point of time when I take my next shot, and B will be, see, A is off and B is 1 by, alright, sorry, A is off and B is at 1/4 power. So when I fire now, one of the tubes will not fire. One of the tubes will not fire. Let me show it to you. See, only one tube is firing. The second tube is not firing. See, so you can put one tube completely off if you want, but I would suggest not to go ahead for all these antiques. It does not help at all. So let us just forget a ratio. So you can see B is at 1/4 power. I'll put A at full power and press the center button. B also at full power and press the center button. So A is also at 1/1 and B is also at 1/1. So let's just get out of this situation. So when I press ratio again, both the tubes are going to fire. Now both the tubes are at full power. Now both the tubes at minimum power, that means 1/64 power. So now both the tubes should fire together. Yeah, both the tubes are firing now. So you can do a lot with a ring flash also, provided you know all the functions. So we have seen how to use all the functions of our ring flash. I want to tell you all that even the ring flash can be unmounted from your flash and used from an eccentric source. For example, let me show you this situation in which I can use my ring flash as an off camera flash. So what you can see right now is that's my patient, and instead of keeping my ring flash on camera like this, so this is how usually people use their ring flash on camera. So this is called as on camera flash, but I can use it as an off camera flash also. So I can hold it in my hand and still use my ring flash. So let me try and take one shot for all of you all and show that you can use it as an off camera flash also. Alright, so I'm going to be holding the flash on one side like this and taking the shot. Just a fancy shot for me to show off slightly. I'm going to be keeping my flash power at 1/4 because this is an anterior aesthetic shot. I'm going to be taking less number of T, so I can take my shot like this as well. So you can see only one side of my patient's teeth will be illuminated. like in this case. It looks a little fancy. Alright, so you can use your ring flash to do all the fancy stuff as well. Don't underestimate your ring flash. Also, you can do another situation in which you can get a black background with a ring flash itself. So you can see I have a lot of space behind my patient. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to be removing my ring. I'm going to be removing my ring flash and I'm going to be keeping in front of the incisors like this, but I'm at 90 degrees from my patient, and I'm hoping that I'll be getting a black color background in this situation. Yeah, so you can do a lot of anterior aesthetics photography, a lot of glamour shots even with your ring flash. So let me go ahead and show you if I happen to get a black background. So this is possible with a ring flash also. See, this is how you capture the textures on the teeth. It's very simple to take such pictures. See, and it's a pure black background. Looks good, isn't it? So even with a ring flash you can do a great job. If you want to diffuse it more, what you can do is you can take any white color cloth like this and put it in front of the ring flash also. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as my off camera flash plus with a diffuser like this. So this white cloth is going to act like a diffuser and give me even more softer looking effect to the patient's teeth. It's going to give even softer appearance to the patient's teeth. This all will be counted as glamour photography. Please keep it in mind. Your pictures won't get published or accredited if you do all this. But let me show you that it affects our system. So yeah, I did manage to take a shot. Now let me show you the difference. Let me do the playback. So this is the one with the ring flash with the white cloth, and this is the one without the white cloth. So this is without the white cloth and this is with the white cloth. So you can diffuse the light with a simple cloth as well, and do a lot with ring flashes too. Don't underestimate them. You can see it looks very aesthetic with more amount of diffusers. Alright, so we finished the second type of flash that we tried to cover today. So the first type we covered today was inbuilt flash, then we saw ring flash. Alright, now I want to show you the difference between these two flashes. Can you tell me what is the difference between, first of all tell me what is this called, what are these flashes called? I'll keep it in front of you. Tell me what are these two called? What are these two flashes? You must have seen them in weddings. Yeah? Let me put them on for you. Who can give me the name? Yeah, Bhushan Lachke. You're right. These are called speed lights, and people who attended my session before, you are right. These two are called as speed lights. Yeah, Gaurav. These two are speed lights. Okay, so even though these two look same, they are not the same. I would probably want to try and explain you what is the difference between these two speed lights. Yeah, they are also called as flash guns. Okay, so let us try and understand how these two are different from each other. Soumya, these are not studio flashes. You can use them as studio flashes, but studio lights are something else. Okay, but these are called as speed lights. Right, so let me go ahead and explain what is the difference between these two. Okay, these two can be mounted on the camera through your hot shoe. So both the flashes can be attached to your camera, right? So that is a plus point of an external flash. Basically, you have to understand there are two types of flashes. You can divide flashes into two. One can be a master and one can be slave. All right. So an example of master would be ring flash. Example of another master would be inbuilt flash. Even this can be my master flash. So what do we understand with a master flash? Master flash is something that can fire on its own, and it can set other flashes also who are on slaves to fire if they are in sync with them. So if the master fires, all the slaves will fire along with it, provided they receive its input. Alright. So examples of master can be inbuilt flash, it can be ring flash, and it can also be speed lights. It can also be studio lights. Okay, so any flash can be a master. However, all flashes cannot be slaves. For example, my inbuilt flash cannot sync with any other flash, so it cannot be a slave. Similarly, my ring flash also cannot be a slave. Okay, it cannot fire in sync with some other flash, so it cannot be fired as a slave, which is a disadvantage. My twin flash can also be a master, it cannot be a slave. This is also a disadvantage. However, speed lights on the other hand, you must have seen a lot of wedding photographers using them. These can be slaves as well. Even studio lights can be slaves as well. Alright, so what are the two different types of slaves which are available to us? So these two are speed lights, and they can be in master as well as slave. Let me show you what is the meaning of that. So this is a Yongnuo speed light. So you can see it's on manual mode and it is on wireless mode. Okay, so let me show you the different modes that are available in this. So you can see, first it can be a master, means you can put it on the horseshoe and fire it. Similarly, you can put it on slave mode. S1 means slave mode. Slave mode means if any flash fires, this will also fire along with it through optical information. In the sense, any flash which has this red color plastic on it, it might have an optical sensor. As soon as any flash reaches inside the optical sensor, it can set its slave on fire, provided it was on slave mode. So right now it is on slave mode. If any flash falls on this red color plastic, this will also fire along with it. So in slave mode, it fires along with some other flash. It requires a trigger to be itself to fire. Alright, so this is the trigger for it. This is the optical signal. This is the place where it receives the optical signal. Alright, so this is the S1 mode. Similarly, it also has another slave mode, and then it has a wireless mode. Wireless mode means it will fire whenever the trigger gives it a radio signal to fire. So this is called as a flash trigger. Alright, as soon as I mount it on my camera and I press the shutter release button, this will send a radio wave. This radio wave from the transmitter, it goes and it accepts inside a receiver which is there inside this flash. So this radio signal is going to tell the flash to fire, not any flash firing on this part. So basically what I'm saying is, this flash can be an optical wireless flash also and a radio wireless flash also, because it works with a trigger, radio trigger. However, this flash, although it looks the same, has only an optical receiver. It does not have a radio receiver. Alright, so although these two flashes look the same, this is probably 6,000 rupees or 8,000 rupees, and this is like 2,000 rupees or 3,000 rupees, because it does not have a radio receiver. This on the other hand has a radio receiver also. So hopefully you understood the difference between these two. So Yongnuo flash, it has a radio receiver and an optical receiver. However, such cheap flashes in the range of 2,000 to 3,000, they don't have a radio receiver. This is around in the range of 8,000, 6 to 8,000. This is around 2 to 3,000. So cheaper flash don't have a radio receiver, which is a drawback. We need to have flashes that can fire without a master. How will it fire without a master? With the help of a radio transmitter. All right, so let us see different situations in which these are going to fire. Okay, so first thing I'm going to show is I'm going to be keeping this on radio mode. So it's going to be acting as a radio receiver, because you can see this Wi-Fi kind of a signal. It's on RX, radio RX. RX means receiver, and the flash power is on half power. I'll just reduce it to okay, then let's just keep it on half power. Okay, so my flash is ready. Okay, this flash I'll just put it off for the time being. So only this flash is going to fire. I'm going to be taking my camera. So this is a 700D. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to be fixing the radio transmitter on my 700D. Okay, so let me put my camera on. It's already on. My radio receiver is on, and my flash is also set to fire. As soon as I do a half release, it'll give out a blue color light. Giving out a blue color light means it is ready to fire. So whenever I do a half release from here, it's going to give you a blue color light. Yongnuo is one of those very good reliable companies that help you to understand this. Otherwise it's a nightmare to sync Godox flash or Digitech flash. Yongnuo is really easy to use, so go ahead and use Yongnuo only. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you, as soon as I press the shutter release button, this flash is going to fire. Okay, so let me release the shutter for you. Yeah, 1, 2 and 3. You saw that this flash fired. I'll show it again. When I do a shutter release, even this flash will fire. Only this flash will fire. 1, 2 and 3. So this is how this system works. All right, but suppose one day you forgot your trigger. So what is going to happen is, if you want to use this flash, how do you fire it? Anyone who can tell me, if I've forgotten this trigger, how do I still fire this flash? Anyone? If I've forgotten the trigger, how do I fire this? Yeah, Om, you are right. I can put it on slave mode. So where do I get the master from? So I can use this flash, inbuilt flash, to fire this flash. Okay, but it's not going to fire on this mode. You can appreciate that this is on wireless receiver mode. It is not going to fire right now. So let me show it to you. This will fire, my master will fire, but this won't fire. So let me go ahead and show that to you. 1, 2, 3. See, this did not fire. However, this one fired. This did not fire. That's because my mode is incorrect. So I have to put it on which mode? Master mode or slave mode? So yes, you are right. I have to put it on slave mode. So that is S1 mode. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the power to half. All right. So what is going to happen now is this flash is going to hit here, and this is going to fire along with this flash. All right. Sorry. So let me see if it is going to fire. So I'm going to fire this one, and then this is going to hit on the sensor over here, and this is also going to fire along with that. All right, so let us see. 1, 2 and 3. Yeah, this one also fired and this one also fired. We'll do it and see it again. 1, 2 and 3. Yeah, this one also fired and this one also fired. All right, but if I happen to cover this with my hand by mistake, if you hold it like this and this gets covered, this will not fire. This will not fire. Okay, so sometimes you have to be careful not to cover this part, because this is where the sensor is. So if you hold it like this and fire, it might not fire. See, it is not firing now. I'll show it to you again. 1, 2, 3. It is not firing.